Good evening. Good evening. How is everyone? Thanks for joining on a quiet Friday. I think it's going to be a very quiet Friday, just because International Week, no club football. It is just me, Connor, and welcoming Jessica. Welcome from Jacinho. She knows Arsenal. Am I right?
Yes.
And you're based in California too, right?
Yep.
Brilliant,
LA.
brilliant, brilliant. Connor, how are you? Welcome back. Well,
Yep.
got no choice but to have you back, but yeah, welcome.
Come on. But you were begging me to come back.
Of course, and you're going to be missing, aren't you? Just a quick one. You're going to be missing for the next 3 weeks, so I've got to find a replacement. I've asked Conroy, but I might probably get one more. So
That's
it'll be
right.
a
3 week.
three.
Little
Yeah, it'll be a three-person.
spontaneous trip away.
It'll be a three-person panel, guys. Today's is going to be a chilled one. I say a chilled one, but we are going to cover the main event for the weekend. It's not international football. It's not the cricket. It's literally Liverpool's very own. Well, two of Liverpool's very own, Darren Till and Paddy The Baddy Pimblett, who will be fighting in the UFC. We'll be covering that a little bit later. But the first 30, Jessica's got all sorts of endorsement deals. So she's going to be going off at 10:30, I believe. But we're going to be covering the transfer window. Connor, do you want to take this over as the transfer window is now shut? Any good deals? Let's talk about our clubs first. I'll let you two first take the floor because I don't want to talk about
Sure.
Liverpool because all week on the day trippers it's all been about Liverpool FSG, and we're not going to talk about ownership right now because I know Arsenal and the Kroenke, there's stuff going on there. We have our fan bases on FSG what not, and then obviously you guys are always happy because you've got a billionaire who's ready to spend more and more billions in the coming years. So Connor, I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, as you say, we'll avoid ownership because I could talk all night about our brilliant Russian sugar daddy, Big Roman. But no, I think we'll focus on, as you say, our clubs to begin with. From a Chelsea perspective, I think we've had a strong window both in terms of incomings and outgoings. The first thing that I would say is that you could probably start building a pretty top class squad with the outgoings that leave Chelsea seemingly each window, and this window was no exception to that. You've already seen in the Premier League, Tino Livramento has taken the league by storm, had a couple really good games, playing in at right back. I know he's one that caught your eye early on, Abby. We were discussing his heritage a while back, weren't we?
Who are we talking about?
He's a very good player.
Nuno Mensch.
No, Livramento.
Oh, Livramento. Oh, yeah. We were talking. We covered him 2 weeks ago because he was on my fantasy list, wasn't it? Oh, you got to give us an update on that as well. I love him. I actually like him technically as a right back. He's a modern day right back, if that makes sense. I think he's really good. He can cut in. He can cut out. He can go wide. He's one to definitely keep an eye on. I think Southampton is obviously going to be, no disrespect to Southampton, it's going to be a stepping stone for him. But I like the look of him. Jess Livramento. Have you seen much of him?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he kicks on. Chelsea Academy, good player. Keep churning him out day in and day out. So he looks really good, really quick. Not very confident to get on the ball and take somebody on, which is really nice to see from a fullback. So loved it. I would like to see how he kicks on and Cucurella from that's going to be at Brighton. I think those are two really good modern fullbacks that are going to be kicking on in this league. So interesting.
Yeah, and you mentioned about his confidence. That's the thing that strikes me most about him as a player. Immediately, you were expecting, he's a young player. He's only just turned 18, making his senior debut. Didn't know, how well he'd adjust to English football, especially being thrown in on the first day of the season. But he was taking players on. I mean, against United, he was Southampton's standout player for me. Really, really good, right on the ball. He can cut both ways, like Abby says. And I think it was quite surprising to me that Chelsea let him go, considering we had such a strong interest in Achraf Hakimi this summer. I think if you were to liken Tino Livramento to any player in world football, it would be Achraf Hakimi. Huge acceleration, real potential to create chances and beat players from that right-hand side. So, yeah, talking about outgoings from Chelsea, he was one that disappointed me, but he's going on to.
What was the initial fee? Was it 7-8 million? Was it
less? 5 million if all add-ons are met. But Chelsea have a buyback of 25 million, as we do with quite a few players that we've sold. We've got a buyback with Tino Anjorin, another one who we've left to go on loan, slightly strangely to Lokomotiv Moscow. So, yeah, another weird one. Again, like I say, we could probably build a team out of the players we've sold. We've got Gurhi, we've got Tammy, who's left recently to Roma, Fikayo Tomori gone to Milan, Kurt Zuma as well for big money to West Ham. So, yeah, from an outgoings perspective, we've let some real quality go, but our squad was in need of trimming.
Cool. Anyone else on the list? I know you've got a few there.
Yeah, I've got a few little gems, I suppose, of surprising transfers that I think might stand out. A couple that I think RB Leipzig always do good business. I know they brought in Szoboszlai. I don't know if that was in January or maybe
It was
over
already
summer.
there, wasn't it? But he was injured, wasn't he, for a
Yeah.
couple of months? Yeah.
So that was over January. They brought in Mohamed Shimakan, the centre back, good player.
Good signing.
Yeah,
Did they
young
get
player.
Mariba as well?
Yep, they got Elijah Mariba.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got
He's-
him at the.
With Mariba, what was it? His agent's been playing a few clubs off, hasn't he, during the summer? One minute he was going to re-sign a contract, then I think he was linked with a few clubs in England. I think Spurs were.
Linked with Spurs, yeah.
Yeah.
And Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was given a really bad rap by Barca because he's completely within his rights to say, look, I want more minutes. I want to leave to a bigger club. I want to enhance my pathway to become a top player in world football. And you had the Barcelona director coming out and slating him. You had Koeman coming out in the press and saying it's unacceptable for a player to think they're bigger than the club. All this. I mean, this is a 19-year-old kid. And they're coming out and ripping him for wanting to move away. I don't really understand it.
I want to come on to Leipzig quickly, just because it's obviously probably a team that I'm going to obviously keep an eye on because of Jesse Marsch. I think you will too. I know he's lost his first 2 out of 3, but how do you see him doing? Do you see the first season sort of being obviously a transitional season? Because it is a big club with big aspirations. I mean, and it's big boots to fill, isn't it, from Nagelsmann? Do you think he will get that chance to have his own blueprint on this team?
Yeah, they'll give him time. I mean, he's a part of the Red Bull setup coming from Salzburg. They'll give him time. They understand. I mean, they've lost Upamecano, they've lost Konate, as well as Sabitzer. Those are 3 big players in their team, so they're going to need to rebuild. And some of those other players that have kind of been in the shadows are going to need to step up. Tyler Adams is somebody that he's going to rely heavily upon, somebody who's had a lot of injury, so he needs to stay fit. You have Szoboszlai coming in. He's going to have to kind of take over some of the responsibility from Sabitzer. So he's going to get the time because Leipzig is just that kind of team. Like, they're not going to sack him if he just has one bad season, but they'll support him. They'll give him the players that he needs. And from the summer that they've had, it's just going to take some time. And they always have the feeder from Salzburg. So, yeah, I expect him to be there for a little while.
Do you expect him to get into the top 4 this season?
Yeah, I would.
I think top 4 would be the.
It's just, I mean, Borussia Mönchengladbach, they've fallen off massively after losing Marco Rose. So that was one of the main, competitors in that league to get into the top 4. So what is it? It's just Dortmund, Bayern, and there's 2 additional spots, and it's up for grabs. So maybe Leverkusen, makes a play for it, and then I would expect Leipzig to be in and around there as well.
Wolfsburg got a good team as well.
Yeah. Are we all expecting Bayern to run away with it again in the Bundesliga?
Of course.
Yeah,
I just given it.
I just think if Dortmund can get the defensive side sorted, if Marco Rose can implement a style where he sorts out the balance, because they're going to leak goals, we know that, because the centre backs they're not good enough. But if he can get some kind of balance, and with obviously Haaland up there, another season for Reina in his preferred 10, I believe, I think they can make a fist of it. But yeah, I think Nagelsmann at Bayern. But I think Bayern will be expected to challenge for the Champions League as well this season. I think they want a big run, don't they? And I think that's the pressure on Bayern Munich. I think the board know. I think they got Matthias Sammer. I think they always expect them to win the league, but it's the Champions League, which is their it's become their bread and butter. They need to do well, like get into the final, or even actually, go on and win it. So I do see pressure there. Do you think Nagelsmann will be okay, guys, at Bayern? I know he's still young. He's 35, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
he's one of the youngest managers.
And especially at a club like Bayern, it can go horribly wrong at times.
I mean, if he doesn't do well, I think he'll be gone quicker. Like, it's not the Red Bull setup. They have standards, and if he doesn't get the buy-in from some of the older players there, it could go wrong really quick, because they do have loud voices, in that dressing room. But I do think he's a good enough manager to get something out of them. I don't know if they've strengthened enough in the summer really to expect Champions League, even with the great team that they have. You know, you're looking at PSG and Man City and Chelsea in particular that have really strengthened. So it's going to be difficult, you know, for them to win the Champions League, but that's the expectation. I expect them to win the Bundesliga, but the Champions League, it looks like it's going to be a tall ask.
Yeah, it's just like what Kevin O'Sullivan says. Unfortunately, Bayern squad is too deep for the others to compete. Borussia Dortmund will stay close for a few months, but by March it'll be over. And it's like the same old story, isn't it? Like for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, just when you think that Dortmund might challenge, and I think Peter Bosch was it who was in charge. You know, you just thought maybe, or Lucien Favre, they had a little spell where you thought, you know what, they might win it, but then they just fall off. It could just be with the youth and the experience as well. But yeah, Connor, any more before we go to our own clubs, the transfers that we've done?
I think an interesting one to debate would probably be Atletico Madrid. They have obviously brought in Griezmann, was their sort of star, the sort of marquee signing. I still find it hilarious how Barca paid so much for him, then gave them Suarez because, you know, Griezmann and Suarez couldn't really coexist in the same squad. Then Atletico pipped them to the league, and now they've given Griezmann back because they can't afford him. All the while, Messi has left because of his astronomical wages. So it's, I mean, in terms of a win-win-win-win, Atletico have ticked all the boxes there.
They've had a really good window. Rodrigo de Paul, Matthias Cunha, like they're turning into more of an offensive threat, which has been something that I think people have wanted more of. Simeone's traditionally really defensive, and adding somebody like Rodrigo de Paul and another striker, you know, I think they look really, really good to me. Like, really good.
De Paul's the one where I was speaking to obviously Grizz about it, and Grizz doesn't know his sort of South Americans that well. You know, he's more of the European influx and whatnot. But I was talking to him about De Paul. There's a guy who comes into the chat, usually Tabiko, and he's been raving about Rodrigo de Paul since Udinese, since like beginning of last season. And the more and more I saw of him, I thought, you know what, there is a player in here, and he could probably like play at a higher league or higher sort of, you know, at a better team. And then you saw him at the Copa America, and he was pivotal, part of that Argentinian midfield. Like, he was just rugged. He gives and goes when he wants to. He can run with the ball. He can dribble with the ball. I thought he's a player that Argentina have sort of missed in that middle for the last sort of 5 to 10 years. And I thought he was the man of the match in the final. You know, I didn't think Messi had a great final, but Rodrigo de Paul for, I think, was it 35 million that Atletico signed him up for?
Around 35 million.
And playing under Simeone as well, a passionate manager like Simeone, you can just see that his game's going to elevate. Connor, Rodrigo de Paul, is he one of the ones to look out for in the coming year or so? Because he is 26, 27, isn't he, I believe? Laura Duffy will probably correct
him. He's approaching his prime. He spent a few too many years maybe in Italy, and I know there was quite a reluctance, weirdly, for him to leave Italy. I know he had offers last summer to move abroad, and he didn't take him. I know Aston Villa were actually interested in him, weirdly enough, and I think he's quite a similar player to Jack Grealish. He's rugged with the ball. He, as you say, is robust. He can sort of shrug off a challenge, but he's also very, very creative with his passing. So yeah, I think he's an excellent player, a great acquisition for Atleti, and I think players like João Felix, players like Cunha and Griezmann will really benefit from his presence in the team. But I'm struggling really to see how those three sort of shadow strikers, which Cunha, João Felix and Griezmann all are, how do you fit them all into a team?
Well, João Felix, it was no secret. João Felix was available for loan. They even tried to flirt that idea to Barcelona. But there was something there where they wouldn't have minded just cutting their losses on João Felix. João Felix was brought for what, 110 million, wasn't he, from Benfica at 19. I always said it was the wrong move for him because Simeone sort of starves that flair in a player when they join. Thomas Lemar, like from Monaco, I know he had a dip season when he went over previously to Atletico, but it was the wrong move for him. And you see Thomas Lemar being played in a midfield three in a left back role, but you do feel sometimes that Simeone, the players that he has at his disposal, he doesn't use the creativeness in them. And João Felix is a perfect example. Again, João Felix is what now, 21, 22? And you don't want him to stagnate because he is a talent. He is a talent, and you want him hopefully by next year. But then who's going to pay? You know, they'll want close to 90 million for him.
And I mean, it makes me question the recruitment strategy there. I mean, who's in charge of it all? Who's pulling the strings? Is it a coordinated, streamlined operation? It's the same thing. You know, everyone's eyebrows across the world were raised when João Felix signed for Atleti, because they thought, well, this is a young flair player who's excelling in a free-flowing attacking system in Benfica, who's, you know, creating goals, scoring goals, and he moves to Simeone's side, who are, you know, notorious for their, you know, defensive prowess, but not in the attacking, you know, area of the pitch. So I don't really know why that happened, but like you say, he is trapped in a little bit of a sort of in a sticky situation, because they will expect such a huge fee for him. So who knows what happens in that situation.
And it's hard for a team right now because of COVID and whatnot to go out and spend 70, 80, 90 million. They don't want to cut, they won't cut their losses on that price either, Atletico. So seeing him, maybe, I think it will be an initial loan with an obligation to buy or an option to buy with João Felix if it doesn't work out from Atletico. But again, he's 21 years old, like Laura Duffy explained to us right now, and he was for 126 million euros. That's a lot of money for a 19-year-old.
He could be somebody that maybe Man City looks at next summer. You never know.
Maybe,
I think he would thrive in a Pep system if they can't get Holland, which I don't think they will. He could probably go somewhere like that. They're really the only teams that can afford him are teams in the EPL. That's about it. You know, so I would look forward to see maybe him going to a City next season, because he definitely needs to get out of there. I mean, his development has been halted majorly, you know, and there's even other players coming into the Portuguese side that are starting to play above him. You know, he's becoming kind of an afterthought, so he definitely needs to get out. But I would look at City. I would think that somebody like Pep could use a player like that in his front line.
Yeah, definitely. And Slim Reaper makes a good comment there, saying that Felix is young enough to wait it out and go on a free in 3 years' time. We're seeing this more and more with these players who have demanded or warranted these astronomical fees. They're effectively priced out of moves, especially if they have a little dip in form like Felix has done. So I think we're going to see this growing trend of players running down their contracts so that they become affordable. Same things happen with Mbappe. Same things happen with quite a few players across the world who would, you know, garner those huge fees. We're seeing them run down their contracts. Kane's doing the same thing at Spurs, it seems like. Declan Rice, I know, doing the same thing at West Ham. So, yeah, and definitely a noticeable trend and something that will happen more and more in the future.
You know, talking about Felix, young talent, it reminds me of a similar story to Ricardo Quaresma when he went to Barca from Sporting. Ricardo Quaresma was a bigger talent than Cristiano Ronaldo, an absolute baller. Literally, like, could go right or left. We know he was accustomed to later on using the right outside of his right foot, those crosses. And he he actually had a spell at Spurs, didn't he? Chelsea, didn't he?
Chelsea, yeah, one loan. He made about 7 appearances. Absolutely dreadful.
Ended up with an FA Cup medal or something as well that season. But no, he was a player that went to Barcelona during Rijkaard. And he just didn't get the game time, and that's it. From there on in, he sort of went back to Porto, had a few good years. We were linked with him under Rafa at one stage, but he just never got the recognition that he deserved, and he didn't have the mentality either. I think sometimes when you go to a big club at a young age, you sort of become sort of a little bit arrogant, if that makes sense, and you think, oh, you know what, I've already kind of made it. Whereas João Felix, you can see that he wants to learn. He's got the right people around him. So I'm not sure, like you said, that he could wait it out for 3 years. I'm not sure he would. I think he would probably, if it doesn't work out this season, he'll look at his option, and he's 21 years old. So I think the next move for him, where he can get regular football, where a attacking manager, a creative manager, gives him that belief that, you know what, go and do some numbers in terms of assists and goals, and go and become, you know, the player that you're meant to. Because he was dubbed to be the next sort of Portuguese star, the next sort of Ronaldo. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I want to move swiftly on, Connor, to Jess's team, Arsenal Football Club. Done quite a lot of business. I'm not sure if Stan Kroenke pulled the money from his backside or whether he invested himself, but must have been a loan, the way things are. How do you feel about the business? I don't want to mention Ramsdale's name because it's been a sort of laughing joke between Chris Pratt and myself.
Let's talk about Ramsdale just for a second. I think it's really important to, I mean, from my perspective as an Arsenal fan, I don't really care what other people say, because no matter who we sign, people are going to say that they're terrible players. As soon as they're linked to Arsenal, the narrative around a player changes. I could have sworn Ben White was an up-and-coming, promising center back, and as soon as he comes to Arsenal, he's dead. So I don't really listen to what other people say. He's been relegated 3 times. I could have sworn Maguire was relegated 4 times, and he's one of the best English center backs, isn't he? So let's just make sure we're consistent. Being relegated a couple times.
According Harry Maguire. Well, I don't interrupt. Harry Maguire is regarded as who? As one of the best England defenders. Connor, do you rate him?
After the Euros, he was
Harry
one
Maguire.
of the best center backs in the world.
I think Harry Maguire is. I think he's one of the top 3 in the league, and I think he's one of the top 10 in the world.
And he's been relegated quite a bit as well and playing in the back line. So I would imagine he's a terrible player just like Ramsdale. But let's just make sure we're consistent. Is he the best goalkeeper in the world? Absolutely not. But he's 23, and most goalkeepers don't really reach their prime until they're like 28. So there's a reason why he continues to get big moves. There's a reason why he's in the English national team. I mean, it's hard to get in there as a 23-year-old. He's jumping over other people. So good up-and-coming goalkeeper. Do I like the price? No, I don't. But is he terrible goalkeeper? Lettuce hands? He's the worst? Absolutely not. My issue with the window is not about the players that we brought in. Odegaard, before he came to Arsenal, great up-and-coming player. Now, all of a sudden, he's awful. Ben White, same thing. These players are not bad. I think fund allocation is something that is a problem. And we found out this morning that Ben White and Ramsdale in particular were Mikel Arteta signings. And I just wonder why we let a manager make big decisions on big purchases. I think the DOF should be doing that, because we missed out on a central midfielder. And that's really what we needed more than anything. I think, we've even spoken about this. Basuma was somebody that we could have gotten and probably should have went after, and we didn't do that. And if you spend 75 million on a center back and a goalkeeper, that right there, that's a midfielder and some change, and that's what we really needed. So we won't really know whether these players are good or not into the next 2 or 3 years, because obviously they're works in progress. But I just don't really get behind the whole, they spent this amount of money on 6 players and none of them are good and this terrible window. It's not. It's a future window. But was the fund allocation wrong? Yes. But we're in a long-term rebuild. Nothing we would have done in this window would have got us into top 4. Nothing. We're too far off the pace.
See, we're
outside of Europe.
But Jess,
I think so.
I'm just going to read Kev's comment, and then I'll come back to this. Kevin O'Sullivan comes up with a really good comment. It looks like there's no absolutely strategy to it. Arsenal have had a huge issue with the spine for a decade. I don't get what Edo is trying to achieve. Now, you just said, Jessica, if I'm right, that Ramsdale and Ben White were Arteta signings. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And then you're talking about the future. So my rebuttal to that is, will Arteta be part of that future?
Well, the club is not going to make decisions in a transfer window with a manager in charge if they're not going to. You have to back the manager, and I get that that's what they're trying to do. Now, the part about absolutely no strategy just feels a little bit too far and binary for me. There's a clear strategy of bringing in players from the ages of 21 to 24, highly up-and-coming players, some English, because we know that the rules around homegrown players is going to change. So no strategy to it. Those are all positions that we needed except for goalkeeper. So I don't really agree with that. But if you want to back the manager, you have to back him in the window. You can't get all these different signings based on somebody who may or may not be there, So I don't know. It's a weird one for me. I think the issue is the DOF and the people running the club are too inexperienced and they're making mistakes. But at the same time, this window isn't a complete failure in my eyes. It's easy to kind of hook onto it and say, Ramsdale, he's a horrible goalkeeper. You spent 50 million on a center back and Varane costs less. There has to be context there, And I mean, if you guys want to let me know what we could have done in this window to get over Liverpool, Leicester, Man City, Man United, these teams in order to get in top 4, please let me know. Because this team, for me, just 3 signings was not going to get us to that point. So they're trying to do a little bit of a longer term approach, which I'm okay with, but it's a risk still.
See, my concern with it is the fact that Arsenal's strategy seems to be about buying depth. And to me, you don't buy depth. You create depth by buying quality. You buy quality and you relegate the first team starters to therefore becoming depth.
Depth signings, though. Only
I think
two.
Ramsdale's depth. I think Tavares'
He's
depth.
our long-term goalkeeper. That's
Then you're in for a shock. If Ramsdale's your long-term goalkeeper, I think the transfer strategy is way out the window. Because I base it on what I've seen of Ramsdale. He's a bang average goalkeeper from what I've seen. He doesn't save things that should be saved, and that's how you should ultimately judge.
At 23.
Yeah, and there's only hope so far that you can come from my perspective, and I don't think.
How old is Conor? How old is Dean Henderson for United? 22,
how
23?
old?
How old is he? Laura Duffy. I need Laura Duffy here. Dean Henderson for United because
get a countdown timer on. I'm saying 24 personally.
24. I think with Ramsdale, Jessica, for me, I just don't see it with him. I don't see the potential where he's a good goalkeeper. Conor says,
it's weird that you guys say that, but every goalkeeper expert says that he is good. So do we believe experts or do we believe?
Hey, you believe us? You got to believe. Listen,
I don't
take anything what experts say. Sky Sports have made a hash of the appointments and experts and match of the day. I'm sure you know, Jessica. They have like Jermaine Genius, Danny Murphy. You don't have a clue. I mean, even I've got more of a clue than they do, and my football knowledge is absolutely null, right? So no, I actually look. I don't rate Ramsdale, but look, and Conor, you're in the same boat. We've never seen anything in Ramsdale.
No, I think he thinks I think he's a good shot stopper in certain scenarios, but I also think he has glaring flaws. I think he's similar to Kepa in that he just doesn't save stuff that should be saved, and he'll make people say, "Oh well, should he have really saved that?" When in reality, a top keeper, you don't even question it because it doesn't even look like a challenging save.
I would say agree to disagree on that one.
We'll come on to we'll come on to Ben White. No, look, it's all about opinions. Jessica, we could have egg on our face this season, end of the season, where if he's played man of the match performances and he's produced and he's got his England cap, so fair play. It's all about opinions on this show and on any other show that the Daytrippers or yourself do anyway. So I want to come on to Ben White. So Conor, you guys were after Jules Koundé. It didn't get over the line. Do you feel that Ben White could have come in and filled those shoes? I know under Graham Potter he was tested as a defensive midfielder as well, and he did a good job. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong; we were interested in him when he was at Leeds in the Championship season when they got.
So we, he had lots of interest all over the top flight.
There's talent there, but I want to ask you, Conor, would he have fit at Chelsea, and is he a good fit at Arsenal currently under the current structure?
I think in regards to the first question, I would have waited another year to sign him, and I would have happily signed him at the end of this season because I think we're letting Thiago Silva go. I think Ben White's probably best in a back three. I don't think he has the ability to. Well, he does. I don't think he has the positional sense to play in a two, and I don't think I think he has some pretty significant athletic deficiencies that let him down. In a two, he needs to be playing with a really robust partner who's very aware and can tell him, right, do this, do that. But he's young, so that might get ironed out of him, which is why I think he needs an experienced partner. But I think he needs to be in a three. Ideally in the middle of a three where he can venture out playing that libero role where he sweeps up and comes out, or he can play. I mean, he's played as a right back in a four. So I think he could play as a right centre back, which is what we were getting Koundé to do effectively, was to usurp Azpilicueta in our side and play him as that right centre back. So I'd get him if he was still at Brighton. I think 50 million is a stretch, but they ask big money for these players from big clubs who they know they've got the money. So I would potentially probably pay 50 million for him next summer when he's had another season at Brighton, who looked really good this year. And then I would sort of demote Azpilicueta and get rid of Thiago Silva. But those gaps will probably be filled by Koundé.
The biggest mystery, and Jessica, again, on Arsenal, and I don't want to we're not hammering. Look, for me, Arsenal's a team, even though I support Liverpool, is a team that I idolized growing up because of Wenger. And because back then you were doing smart business. The Petits, the Vieiras, the Thierry Henrys from Juventus when it didn't work out for him in Italy. Wiltord, who was a good player. Robert Perez, I think 5.5 million from Marseille. You lot were known to do smart business. In recent years, there's question marks. But just on William Saliba, every time I see him in the French league, he looks fine. He looks good. He looks powerful. But somehow he can't come into this Arsenal team. And you've got Pablo Mari there. You've got Gabriel Magalhaes, who was a good signing. Ben White. Are you telling me he wasn't good enough to come into that setup? Or is there something in the background with his sort of personal issues off the pitch and whatnot?
It's personal issues. It's a combination of a bunch of different things. You know, from an outsider looking in, you look at Saliba and then you look at Holding and you say, wow, what a huge mistake. But as an Arsenal fan, you know that there were some personal issues there. We know, for me personally, I do think it's a stretch to say that he was going to be able to start in this Arsenal team day in and day out, which is what a lot of Arsenal fans wanted. And that's essentially, for me, just, it's too far-fetched. And the reason why I say that is because people use Fofana as a good example. Two players, basically the same. They're not. And Leicester, you're playing with Johnny Evans and Soyuncu. At Arsenal, you're playing with Gabriel, you know, and Chambers and these players. The setup is not the same. Do I think he could be a rotational option? Absolutely. Do I think that that's the best way for him to develop? No. I don't think sitting on Arsenal's bench is a good idea for Saliba at this point in his career, because he wants to be making the national team. He needs minutes under his belt, and we don't have Europe. So for him to go out on loan, that's best for his development. Would I prefer to see him in the team over Holding and Pablo Mari? Absolutely. And I just feel Arteta has made certain decisions based on culture and young players that don't really color inside the lines. And he's kind of heavy-handed with the way that he deals with players, especially guys that are not his boys. You know, a lot of the Emery signings haven't made it. You know, I think that that's a key pattern that people need to take into consideration. No Torreira, no Guendouzi, no Saliba. These are all Emery signings. But I think this is what's best for his career. I don't think he's coming back to Arsenal. I think we sell him. Wow. I think there's the relationship is just, it's too far gone. But in regards to Ben White, I think he's the perfect solution to David Luiz, you know, and I just saw a lot of really over-the-top commentary about how terrible he is and he's not good in the air. And we're not getting him to be in the air. We're getting him to play possession. A lot of other good teams were linked with him. So, again, I think he's a good signing. You have to pay a little bit more for English players. We know that. But for me, he was one of my favorite signings of the summer. You know, I think having a center back like him next to Gabriel and Tomiyasu on the right is a good back 4/back 3 type of setup. And we always play in a back 3. No matter even if it's back 4, it's back 3. So I think Ben White will be fine. But I love Saliba. I think the relationship is just too far gone.
Yeah, and Conor, it seems as if, like, look, I still consider Arsenal a top team, just because of the heritage, and obviously because of their history. I don't discount the last sort of 4 or 5 years. They're still a big club. Don't make no mistake about it. My next thing is, Conor, it seems as if all the top teams that I have spent. So we're going to look at Arsenal. They're still sort of missing. I think Jess said they're still missing a player or two. Chelsea, you could arguably say you're missing Chelsea. Arguably say that you're missing a centre back. A centre back? It would have topped it off, wouldn't it?
Couldn't it would have been nice, but I mean, I think I'm a bit of a youth enthusiast, so I don't like what it does for Trevor Chaloba's prospects, especially the fact that he's worked his way into the club. I mean, come on, surely you. I mean, if you're buying a world-class signing, for sure, but if you're buying squad fillers, surely you'd prefer to see a youth player elevated, no?
No, 100. It's like with United, they still feel that they're missing a 6, a DM. Man City will tell you that they're missing a 9. Liverpool will tell you that we're missing 1 or 2. But I want to come on to Chelsea before we just quickly wrap up with Liverpool. Chelsea's business, Lukaku comes back. 3rd time lucky, is it? Because he went on 2 loans, didn't he, before he came back to Chelsea, and then he was eventually sold. Or is it twice? Because he went on. He was permanent at Everton, wasn't he? Or he was on loan at Everton, then they made it permanent, didn't they? Yeah, and West Brom as well.
He was loaned initially to West Brom. I mean, the first season that we got him, he stayed in our squad. The season that we won the Champions League, I think it was. Yeah, the season we won the Champions League, 2011-12. He stayed in our squad, stayed knocking around, and he played like 3 Premier League games. Just a really poor season from him. Villas Boas really sort of shunned him, pushed him out into the cold. And then when Di Matteo came in, there just wasn't the opportunity to play him. He then went out on loan to West Brom the next season and absolutely killed it. Scored, I think, 18 Premier League goals, somewhere in that ballpark. Really, really quality season. Scored a hat-trick against United on Ferguson's last game, which was just so brilliant. Dropping that on Fergie's.
Was that 5-5 game, was it? Was it that weird game, wasn't it? Last game, it was a 5-5 or a 4-4. Laura Duffy again, if you want to just correct the score. I think it was a 5-5 draw. I'm pretty sure it was.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But
5-5.
Yeah.
Then he came back, went to Everton on loan. Then the next season, Everton bought him. That whole time, I was screaming out for him to stay around in our squad. Meanwhile, Chelsea were boasting an attacking line of Fernando Torres, washed up, no knees, out of form Torres, Demba Ba, who we got for like 7 million from Newcastle.
Move on. The less said about him, the better. Come on.
Exactly. And Samuel Eto'o, who was 35 at the time. I mean, how Lukaku couldn't get in ahead of any of those three.
The same was with De Bruyne, Salah, wasn't it? They couldn't get in that Chelsea team either because Mourinho didn't believe in them. But I want to come on to Chelsea. I'll just quickly touch upon last week's game. Lukaku, how did you think he did with Virgil and Matip? Because people are saying that Matip had him on strings. I thought first half he looked threatening, but I'll let you take this because I've said my piece.
I think he did. I mean, there can be both. You know, Twitter is so partisan, it's so black and white, and we got to be careful living in that sort of environment because it's dangerous, right? People will say, it was absolutely shocking. He had a 0 out of 10, got knocked about the whole time. No, he created some dangerous chances, and if players had been more on the ball, we could have been slipped in for some more. He rolled a couple of defenders, but that said, in the second half, he was completely nullified. Maybe because we were down to 10 men and he was isolated and ISO ball is not his game. Who knows? But, I mean, you have to say Van Dijk and Matip marshalled him well in the second half. And then, you know, it's just way too black and white for me, that sort of analysis. So I think he played well in the first half. Room for improvement. Obviously, there were a couple sloppy touches that people were going to clip and stick on Twitter of him stumbling over his first touch. But he had a good game, I thought.
Yeah, I thought first half he troubled Matip. But I thought Van Dijk was in second gear again, Connor. I thought he just strolled that game. I don't think Lukaku troubled him. I think the 10 men obviously changed the game, didn't it? And I thought Tuchel put a masterclass in the second half. As much as we say Liverpool should have won, which they should have against 10 men, I thought Tuchel was just so disciplined and the shape that he had set up for them. And we just couldn't create any clear-cut chances. But before Jess goes, I want to get title aspirations or the league aspirations for the season. Jess, Arsenal, do you think they can get into the top 10 for the season, or what's your aspirations? Literally, I'm legit. I don't know.
I don't know. Going to get in the top 10, you guys. I know it's pile on Arsenal right now, and I take it. You know, there's no context applied.
I'm being serious.
I'm being serious. There's never any context applied. The fact that we had 4 COVID cases in our first game, the game should have been canceled. Should we have played better? Absolutely. Play against Chelsea and Man City, fair enough. You know, but we don't even have any of our players really there. No Gabriel, no Partey, no Aubameyang wasn't there. Like, come on, you know, no Ben White. But I'll take it. We're definitely going to be in the top 10 on the top part of the table. No Odegaard either. So, I don't know. I think I get why people are like, you guys are the worst team ever. But we're literally not. Second half of last season with the exact same team, one of the top teams. You know, I think we'll get our form back. The only issue is if we change managers mid-season, that might hurt us a little bit. But I'm not worried about getting into the top side of the table and all these other teams being so great and us being so crap. You know, I think it's been.
It probably works in your favor. You know, working in silence when people aren't paying attention. It does work in your favor.
I think
people were saying, "Oh, Arsenal this, Arsenal that." You know, you are in a bad run, and all it takes is a little string of results for fortunes to turn around like that. So we've seen it. A
clear run. It happened to us in 2013-14, didn't it, Connor? When Brendan had a clear run at the league, and we had Suarez, Sturridge, Coutinho, Gerrard, Henderson just playing one game a week. And look, we were on the cusp of winning it. Unfortunately, we didn't. But your prediction, where do you think you'll... Give me a prediction, Jess, like a league position. Where do you finish this season?
We'll finish somewhere between 6th and 7th. You know, I think that's pretty much where we'll be with the exact same team. Again, that's where about-ish we were with a horrible, horrible start. And we've added some good players that help our floor. Obviously, we didn't have backup for Kieran Tierney, no backup for Thomas Partey. We have that now. We just need our players to come back in and to get fit and be without COVID. We have a COVID outbreak in our camp.
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing to start off the season with. But again, 6th or 7th, you know, we should be aspiring for top 4. I get that. But I stand by the fact that nothing we would have done unless we would have bought 3 world-class players, which is going to be completely out of possibility for us, we weren't going to be top 4. So for me, young players, hopefully a good young coach can get the most out of them and we see some progression. I'm patient. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are not, but we just have to get through this hard period. It's really difficult right now just because everybody's piling on. But I think brighter days are ahead. I'm not super worried about it. If we do lose to Norwich and Burnley, Arteta will go and we'll have a new coach, So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's a really optimistic way of looking at it, and it's admirable almost, because it's very easy to get sucked into the social media hysteria and dragged into this get him out or this sort of witch hunt malarkey. But seeing it with context applied, the situation isn't too bad. You signed young, you signed some good players, and I will say I think Lokonga is going to be a brilliant player.
He looked good. He played for Belgium yesterday, didn't he? Looked good.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday. Yeah, he did. He did come on yesterday,
I
right?
think it was yesterday.
Must have come on off the bench. But yeah, he looks really incisive with his passing, defensively sound, and I think he's going to prove troublesome for defensive teams with his creative passing. Like Ndombele, like a fit Ndombele, I think, who can play 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Connor, league prediction for Arsenal?
I think it'll be another season of consistency in terms of finishing 8th. I just think there's 7 better teams than them in the league, to be honest, and that's that. What was it, 8th 2 seasons in a row with Arteta? I think they'll last the season with Arteta, and then they'll get him out, because there needs to be progress. It's a big club, and I don't know if the expectations, if he can live up to them. Kind of a similar scenario to Lampard at Chelsea. Just there isn't the opportunity to win the Champions League.
I think Arteta will be gone by Christmas, and they'll finish 8th. I think he'll be gone, unfortunately for you, Jess. But Chelsea prediction, Connor, then we'll come a little bit on Liverpool, and then we'll let Jess go. Chelsea prediction, league position. Don't waffle on either.
I won't, don't worry. I will, but I won't. I'm going to go with 2nd.
You said third. You said third off air. You said that Liverpool and City will contest it, and then you guys will come 3rd. And now you're saying 2nd, though, yeah?
I'm undecided. I just don't want the weight of title favourites on our shoulders. United have assembled a super squad, for God's sake, and everyone's got them in 4th place. City have been the best team potentially in Premier League history since their Centurion season, and Liverpool, everyone proclaims they got the best 11 in the league. So I mean, we're not exactly favourites, are we? I see us coming 2nd. I'm going 2nd with City winning the league again.
Jess, Chelsea?
No, yeah, Chelsea should probably win the league. I don't really see it any other way but that. I mean, with the form at the back end of last season with Tuchel, the best team in the league, I think that's what it was, without Lukaku, and they don't give up any goals. And I think there's more pressure on Man City to win the Champions League than do anything in the league. I think they have to win it. Pep is under immense pressure to do it. Man United, really good team. I actually have them coming 2nd. So, but I still think Chelsea is the way that Chelsea played against Liverpool at a packed Anfield with 10 men that's a worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario right there. And they still came out good, so I don't really see, 3 squad depth. They have like 3 first 11s that are probably better than most of the league. So
is that a damning indictment of Liverpool? Do you think Liverpool didn't perform enough, and do you think they'll finish outside the top 4 then?
Wait. Let's get her prediction. So Chelsea 2nd, you said, Jess, right?
No, Chelsea 1st, Man United 2nd.
Okay, now
Man City 3rd.
We'll come on to Liverpool. We all know
I feel
Konate's.
so bad saying this.
Yeah, you are gonna feel bad. Don't worry. Konate's come in. Bobby Clark's come in. Another one for the academy. We have got Bobby Clark, Lee Clarkson. You won't know, he was before your time. Played for Newcastle. Quite a legend actually at Newcastle. We've got in Abdul Fasawi Awaki. If I've said his name wrongly, I apologize. He's a Ghanaian. He looks like Adriano, literally with his left foot, ping of a left foot, but we can't confirm that deal for obvious reasons.
These are academy kids?
Academy kids, yeah. You got to invest in the academy. You, as a Liverpool Football Club, you got to invest in the academy first. Listen, our academy's coming through. Musialowski, Balagizi. We've got Cade Gordon. But no, look, it's been a little bit underwhelming. I'm not going to deny that. It's been a frustrating window for us. We thought we were going to get in. Jess, we spoke about Yves Bissouma, and I said to you early on this summer that we've actually offered him wages and whatnot, but he wanted to think about it and he went off to Dubai, and I think we just walked away from that deal. So I think I have us finishing first. I'm confident in my team. Why shouldn't I be? I'm not one of those fans who, will say, no, maybe second or third, Abby, or third, fourth. I believe we're winning the
not even
league.
trying to disguise the
Listen,
shots.
if
It's
if
okay.
Van
It's
if
okay.
Van Dijk can stay fit all season, we'll take it to City. Literally, I still believe it will be Liverpool and City. Chelsea will be running us close as well in third. And then fourth is up for grabs. Literally up for grabs. I don't think it's certain that United are there only because of Ronaldo. I still don't believe that. But Jess, I wanted to get your thoughts on Liverpool and where you see where you see us finishing. And listen, just tell the truth. Don't worry, I'll protect you here.
No, like, okay, I'm not like afraid to speak my mind on this whole thing. Yeah, first of all, Liverpool fans, I don't think you're the worst team. I don't. I really, really don't. First 11 is probably first and second in the league. First 11.
Yeah.
But squad depth is so much more important than it was just a couple seasons before because of COVID and fixture congestion. And I just feel with the age of the squad and what happened last season and the fact that you guys didn't actually plug holes that were obvious in your squad. You have two of your best players going after AFCON and people are like, it's just 2 games. Well, it's actually not like just 2 games. You could come back with malaria. So many different things happen when you go to Africa, you come back. So we should know because as Arsenal fans, we know what it's like to have your players go off to AFCON and come back different. And who's going to back those players up? Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, that they're sick notes, So it's just one of those where because I anticipate that, because I'm realistic, I would say based on your squad depth and the lack of freshness that you have in your squad, even though you guys are so good, I just don't see it, and I think the top 4 is going to be a lot closer than it ever has been. Some people think it's going to be like Man City and Liverpool running away with it. I don't see it that way. I really, really don't. So with that, when I say that I think that you guys can slip out of the top 4 or just be 4th, I'm saying by like a point or so. It's just what I think. But do I think that you guys are a bad team? No. Just didn't do enough. You didn't do enough. I couldn't believe you guys went through that transfer window doing basically nothing.
So you're picking us for 5th.
Yeah, I could see it.
We're gonna have words later on today. Don't worry. I thought I gave you a chance today to, sort of retract from that show that you did, but no.
Oh, I wasn't gonna retract. Honey.
Oh yeah, you better. Yeah. You'll be retracting later on. Don't worry.
It's fine though.
Yeah.
If you guys win the league, come in second, whatever you guys want. You guys can be mad at me and come at me. That's perfectly fine.
No, we wouldn't. No,
it
look,
is what it is.
No, you're allowed an opinion. And look, fair play to you. Look, you haven't dissuaded yourself. I said to you, look, here's your chance to retract and get, some.
I know
some,
you guys
some
are
brownie
rattled
points.
though because
Some brownie
I'm
points.
right. Just a couple of injuries.
You're not right. You're not right at all.
Just a couple of injuries and you're down bad. You know this.
You're not right at all. But Connor, I want to come to Liverpool because you actually you've been really good as a Chelsea fan because you're a regular now, part of the Daytrippers, and you actually are very complimentary every week, and everyone sort of likes you now. And they say even like there's comments sometimes that say that I bully you, like Grizz does to me. But Liverpool, give me your thoughts, and we'll end it on your notes when it comes to Liverpool, and then we'll get on to the other sort of sports that we're supposed to be covering.
Yeah, okay. I mean, to touch on the bullying, I mean, who's come with that? You've definitely invented that, haven't you? For your
Of course
own
I
ego?
have.
Come
Of course
on.
I've got it.
Need some relief from Grizz. That's what it is. I've been complimentary to Liverpool because I think you got a good squad, and I'm a realist, so I will happily say things like I think Virgil van Dijk has the highest peak of any centre back that I've seen. I can say that unashamedly because I believe it. But I won't be unnecessarily complimentary. And I do agree with Jess wholeheartedly that if you lose some key players, i.e. Virgil, we saw what happened last year, i.e. if you lose Salah, we haven't seen that because he's such a robust player. But I think if you lose a couple of those key players, I know you have every squad has injuries and you've got some decent depth now in certain areas. If you lose a couple of those key players, you can really be down bad, as Jess says. But now saying that, I think you've got a very robust squad. I think you've got a squad that knows different ways of beating opponents. And you do have that sort of factor of unpredictability. When the going gets tough, you'll find a way to win. You've shown that in the last couple of seasons, maybe not last year, but the season before. Things were going against you and you just found a way to win. So I see that as a real admirable trait that can't really be coached into a team. So I think you have real prospects to win the league once again. I will probably put you at, where did I say? Chelsea second?
Yeah, but you said something off air, but I'll let you get away with
back
that.
on myself now, but I'll go Liverpool third, close third behind Chelsea. Again, I think it's going to be a very close season. I think
you guys don't rate Man United then?
No, it's Oli. Jessica, it's just Oli. He can have all the players he wants. It's just Oli, I'm afraid. I think are we all presuming that it's going to be a very close title race up until say May? Yeah,
I think so.
No, I think one team might run away with it a little bit and
towards the end. Okay,
keep their heads above the rest. For me, it'll be City. I think other teams will have dips in form, but City have proved they can be consistent. I see them having a stronger run than others.
Fair enough. You think the lack of having a number 9? I know they didn't rely on Aguero last season, but you think having a lack of number 9 might cost them this season? And is it the Champions League? Are they all putting the eggs in one basket of the Champions League? Is it time that he wins it? Because he's already there's some whispers already that Pep might walk at the end of this season. I know he said sort of the next season, 2023, is he expects to sort of take a sabbatical, but you just never know if he doesn't win it this season and the pressure really gets on, he could sort of walk away. But you've got Liverpool coming third. Jess says Liverpool are winning the league. Fair enough. And I've got Liverpool coming top as well. So we'll come back to this show at the end of the season. We'll definitely do another one. I mean, Jess will come on, which she's more than welcome to come anytime that she wants. But Jess, I want to say thank you for coming on. I know you were supposed to come on a few weeks ago, but you couldn't. You got delayed and whatnot. So I thank you again. And yeah, we should be having something soon coming on as well. I know there's we may do a watch along, Jess, on a Saturday, which we will tell people about. Me and Jess might be involved in a 3-game marathon. Is it starting from 4:30 a.m., 7 a.m., and then a 9:30 a.m. So we'll let people we'll let people know what's going on with that. There's still little early plans, but thank you for coming on, Jess. Look, you've got some great love coming in from the comments, Jess, you legend. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Liverpool fans, I love you. I love you guys. Don't hate me, And be nice to your fellow Arsenal fans. Check on them. We're struggling. Check on
we've
us.
got respect for Arsenal fans. And where can everyone find you? Because you have some great content as well. I know it's at Jessenia, but your channel as well, if you just want to plug that.
Yeah, just type in the YouTube search bar, She Knows Arsenal, and I'll pop up.
Brilliant. Oh, right. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, okay, and we'll pop the details later on Twitter as well. So thanks, Jess. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure, Jess. Thanks very much.
And then there were 2. She got good reception. Fair play.
Yeah.
She's good. I mean, she's allowed to have her opinions, and that's totally fine. But look, we've got to go straight into it because my man Paddy The Baddy Pimblett is fighting on UFC tomorrow. I don't think it's in front of a crowd.
Really?
No, it's not.
Where's it being held? Is it Vegas?
It's in the Apex Arena. So I don't think there is a crowd, and he thrives off that. But I want to go straight into it because he is fighting. And I've been unfair because on Twitter, it's all week I've been tweeting Liverpool's very own is fighting. But Darren Till is obviously from Liverpool as well. Darren Till is a fighter who went out to Brazil, Conor, and trained out there for many years. And then came back to Liverpool, and he's a Liverpudlian as well. But it's great seeing 2 fellas, 2 men, 2 boys fighting on the same card from the same area. Paddy's already told Bruce Buffer that he wants to be announced from Liverpool Merseyside instead of Liverpool England. So he's a proper Scouse Republican. So
Scouse, not English. Scouse, not English, and all that.
Yeah, so fair play to. That's not a bad accent. You could get into trouble for that. But yeah, Paddy Pimblett against Luigi Vendramini, who's got a good record, and it's not an easy fight. Dana White, he doesn't make it easy for debutants who want to try out their luck up from another sort of organization. So Paddy's come from Cage Warriors. He was a champion there, I think, in 2 different weight divisions. Laura Duffy, if anyone wants to correct me on that, I believe he was a double champion. And it's not an easy fight. Brock Lesnar, when he came into the UFC, Conor, he fought Heath Herring, and everyone thought Brock was just going to literally absolutely annihilate him. came in. No, sorry, Frank Mir. His debut fight was against Frank Mir. Came in and he literally rushed Frank Mir, and then Frank Mir gets him in a heel hook. I think it was a heel hook. And literally he submitted. And then he came up against Heath Herring where he beat him, and then he fought Frank Mir again, where he beat him, and then obviously became champion when he beat Randy Couture. So Paddy Pimblett, it's not an easy fight. It is a tricky fight. Luigi Vendramini is a Brazilian with an Italian name. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's also good on the floor as well. He's known to put anaconda chokes, the rear naked, the Kimura choke as well. So it's not a easy fight. How do you see this going? Me, myself, I think it will be an open fight. One thing is, though, I think he's got to enjoy this moment, Paddy Pimblett. He's got his chance now in the UFC. He's still a young chap. He's got to enjoy it. He's got to savor every moment when he walks out there. And he's hit the big stage, but sometimes you can get overawed by that. We saw it with Anthony Joshua. I know it was in the boxing, but when he fought Andy Ruiz, that occasion just got to him. I know people will say something wasn't right pre-hand with Anthony Joshua, but how important is it that he keeps calm, he keeps his composure? Because there will be so many people staying up at Liverpool as well. That's that added pressure. But how do you see this one going?
Well, I mean, like you say, it all depends on his mentality and how he approaches the occasion, because you can rise to it or you can sink beneath it. I think the lack of fans might even be a help for him rather than a hindrance. I know people sometimes do thrive on sort of the emotion and the atmosphere in the stadium. But maybe it will just allow him to concentrate on his game. You know, I've listened to him speak a few times, and he seems like the type to just zone in to the occasion. I know these guys are all elite athletes at the absolute pinnacle of human performance, so of course they're going to be zoned in, but this guy seems different, you know. Like you say, he's had a long come up. He's worked his way up. He hasn't just been gifted this shot.
He's had a lot of fights, 16-3. He's had a lot of fights coming up, and the only one thing is I don't want him to come in, and I don't feel it's important for Paddy to make a statement. You know, when someone comes into another country, we saw it with Prince Nassim Hamid when he fought, I'm going about boxing now. We're just going to mix it up, guys. MMA and boxing now. So for the next sort of 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, we're just going to cover both sort of sports. Prince Nassim Hamid, when he fought Kevin Kelly, came out to the US. He got so clumsy that he was knocked down 3 times against Kelly in the first 3 rounds. And then he got his composure and he beat Kevin Kelly. I don't want Paddy Pimblett to come and make a statement. He doesn't need to. He can just stay calm, keep composed. Timing will be key, and his coach, his cornerman will be key. I think Paddy's cornerman around him will tell him, look, relax yourself. Yes, we know you want to make it, and he's got that aura about him. He's confident. He's so confident in his ability, the way he comes across. He speaks so well as well. He's very confident. He's not it's easy saying that he's like a Conor McGregor, but he isn't yet. And I hope he doesn't take that Conor path either, where he starts sort of throwing insults and whatnot. And I know it sells and it's all part of the makeup.
He's not that guy. He's not that guy. He'll never be that guy, I don't think. I think he has confidence in his ability, and you can hear it with the way he carries himself when he speaks, but there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And I think Conor breached that line from the minute he was a household name.
Yeah.
I don't think Paddy's quite there yet, but I really can't see him it's sort of moving in that direction. He seems humble. He seems in touch with his roots. I don't think, I really can't see him becoming big-headed and arrogant. I mean, he's had some good fights recently. You know, I mean, he's seemed pretty invincible in his last few. Was it Decky Dalton he fought and David Martinez? He looked quality against both of them. I mean,
and one thing he has in his advantage, he's brilliant off the floor. He's brilliant. His transitional switches, and it's easy using this word transitional, and it's even in football now, transitions and whatnot. But the way he switches on the floor, on his back, and then he can just turn around. He's so quick. He's so quick in his movement. He's quick on the turnover as well if he's off his back. So he's dangerous. I am suspect a little bit on his stand-up. He can get caught. He can get rushed, and he can start trading. And I don't want him to trade. I don't want Paddy to trade. Stick to your game plan and just get the win, like literally get the win and bring home the W. But I just can't wait. I'm looking forward to when he goes back and the UFC hold an event in the Echo Arena. I believe that's what that's what it's called. I think the Echo Arena, because he has all the potential. The tools are there, and if he's nurtured by the UFC, Dana White, he can go on to become a global star. Like, don't sleep on him. He's very young, but tomorrow is a tough fight. How do you see this going, Conor?
I think it's a tough one. It's a very well-matched fight, and it's definitely a tough UFC debut for him. My only concern, like you say, is if he gets into trading, if he gets into boxing. I mean, I'm pretty sure he broke his hand a couple years ago, and he's never really been the strongest of boxers. So I think if he gets into that sort of trade-off situation with blows being exchanged, then I think he could struggle. But I think if he keeps his distance, if he sort of stays at range, throws his jabs, varies his kicks up a bit, his ground game is very good, and he'll throw some high kicks and some side kicks. I think if he mixes that up, I see it being Paddy by submission. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, look, again, I want him to enjoy the entrance as well, get psyched up, enjoy the announcement from Bruce Buffer, take it all in, soak it all in. And I see him winning it as well. I see him winning it in the second round via submission. I'm hoping for an anaconda or a dash choke from Paddy. But yeah, look, all support. Make sure we all tune in. It will probably, he's the first one on the main card. So it will probably be from it's coming a little bit early actually tomorrow, card. So it's an early start because of the UK fighters. So it's going to be a quick, it's going to be an early start, but he is the first one on the main card. So hopefully hopefully he'll be the first one out and gets the win and bring home the W. So all energy towards Paddy Pimblett. I do want to touch up on Darren Till's fight. I think this is an important fight for him. It's a middleweight fight. He's lost his last 3 out of 4. I think he lost to Robert Whittaker, which was a close fight. He looked good actually, but I think Whittaker just had that edge on him. He's lost to Woodley, who lost to that idiot. It's awful. We don't talk about it. It's embarrassing. And this is what I said to Cal last week. I don't like these switches. I don't like this, this fantasy YouTube fighters fighting. It just takes out the beauty of MMA, like these washed up MMA fighters. And now Jake Paul, he's saying that I'm retiring, and then he's unretired again. But he fought Jorge Masvidal, which it was a nasty knockout from Jorge to Darren Till. It's going to be a tough fight because both of them need a win. Brunson needs a win. He's been around the game for a long time. They both possess the knockout power as well. But Darren Till, if he really wants to make a statement and go for that belt, he actually he needs a win now, and he needs to start, getting into that next tier of Marvin Vettori. Again, probably a possible rematch with Whittaker. Paulo Costa is still in and around. Don't, sleep on that bad win against Adesanya. Khamzat Chimaev, who's healthy now, and it's really good to see him back in training. He's going to be a threat to that top 10 fight list. How do you see Darren Till and Brunson going, Conor?
I think it's going to be one-sided either way. I'm not too decided on which way it will go, but my head is leaning towards Brunson just because he's on such a hot streak. Was it 5 wins in a row, I think? Or 4, I'm not sure, one of the 2. He's the number 5 middleweight in the UFC rankings now. He's a big player now, and he's worked his way up. He's not lost since he fought Izzy Adesanya, so he's definitely on hot form. He's such a consistent and balanced fighter. I think he's got a great mix of strength, and he's got, wrestling ability, but like you say, he's also got that combined with knockout power as well and sheer strength. I think Till is slightly more one-dimensional, but it could go that way, Till's had some serious losses in the past. He's in a bad streak, isn't he? What did you say? 3
lost
from 4?
3. Lost 3 out of his last 4. Yeah, I think he beat Kevin Gastelum, who's a top fighter. He beat Kevin Gastelum, I'm pretty sure. But he's on a 3 on
Wonderboy Thompson.
He beat Wonderboy. Yeah, he won again. That was a debatable decision. I had it Wonderboy winning. I had I had Thompson winning that fight. But again, it's pivotal to win. The one thing that you mentioned, Brunson, and it's what Jonathan's brought up as well. Brunson is on a good run. Darren needs to win. Brunson will try and take him down. That's where I see Darren's Till game. It needs to improve on the wrestling takedowns. He needs to sort of combat that. If he can combat that and he can keep it standing up, I think Till can beat him, as long as he doesn't get caught, because he's been caught nasty times. That Jorge Masvidal knockout to Till, that was a real eye-opener. And I think that sort of shook him a bit, and it took a bit of confidence out of him as well. He's never sort of been the same fighter, but it is definitely one that I see him winning. I think if he sees, obviously, Paddy winning tomorrow early on, it will psych him up too. So it could be
Definitely.
a good, you know what I mean? That energy, it will be good. And I'm sure they'll exchange, they'll probably share the same changing room. So I hope that Darren Till wins that. You?
I would hope to see Till win it, of course. Being a Brit, I mean, you have to back your own. So I'd love to see him win it. I just don't think he has it in him anymore. I mean, his last impressive win was a long time ago. What was it, Cerrone, beating out of form Cerrone, a long time ago now, seemingly anyway. I think the wrestling ability of Brunson will be too much. It could go either way. If Till lands a couple early blows, wins an early round, the momentum can shift. But personally, I can only see it going one way, and that's Brunson maintaining his hot streak.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've got Darren Till, but it'll be a finish. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm going for a Darren Till finish. I think you'll beat him via TKO.
Yeah.
Round, I'm gonna call it another early one, round 2. I think you'll lay it on him. So I'm gonna go for Darren Till. There's another fighter that I want everyone to look out for tomorrow. Sergey Pavlovich. Great KO power. He's sort of like an unsung, but he's coming up. I think he is Russian. He's a very good fighter. Stand-up's brilliant. He's got this lethal grip where he just grips you, and his lethal knee kicks, high kicks are just amazing. So Sergey Pavlovich is one that I'm looking forward to. Troublemaker. He's one of my friends on Twitter. Adesanya wants a Darren Till fight because he says he likes the style matchup, but Till keeps effing up. We all know that sometimes stylistically fighters make great matches. No, we saw it. Like, look at Juan Manuel Marquez, Manny Pacquiao. You'd always assume Manny Pacquiao would beat him, but he always came unstuck with Juan Manuel Marquez. They had, like, I think 3 battles or 4 battles, and the last battle that they had, Juan Manuel Marquez just clipped him, and he just slept Manny Pacquiao. So yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes characteristics are different for fighters, and stylistically, you could be one of the greatest fighters, but you can become very, very awkward. John Jones against Gustafsson. It was always an awkward fight for John Jones. The first one especially, it could have gone either way. It was a very close fight. The second one, that was when John Jones came back, beat him quite convincingly. But the first fight was a touch and go one, could have gone either way. We'll go on to the boxing now.
Which one are we covering first? Which one? Ben Granados or
we'll cover
Warrington? Because
Conor Benn, because he did unfortunately catch COVID not so long ago, but he's fighting. Do you want to pronounce his name? Because you're good with pronunciation, so I'll let you take this one.
He's American. I don't know where his heritage is from, but I mean,
I think he was from Puerto Rico, but you said he was American, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was born in Illinois. So yeah, as American as they come. I mean,
and it's Adrian
Granados would be the Spanish one, but it's just Adrian Granados.
What have you made of?
Oh no, they say Granados, don't they? Say Granados.
And what have you made? You stop taking the piss now. What do you make of the Conor Benn fight, though?
I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's perfect matchmaking for Conor Benn, to be honest. At this point in his career, they've sort of built him up really nicely, really slowly. They've not rushed him into it.
They've taken their time. I agree. They've taken their time. I think Hearns has his name is Barry, isn't it? It is Barry Hearns, isn't it?
That was his dad.
That was his dad, Eddie Hearns. That's it, Eddie Hearns.
Come on.
He comes across a bit of a pleb, but the way they've nurtured him, I think that's because of Nigel as well. Nigel Benn hasn't got too involved. I think Nigel Benn is still relocated in Australia. He was there for his first couple of fights, Conor Benn, but sometimes that's added pressure. You want to impress in front of your dad and whatnot, but he's let Conor just grow in himself and just nurture the way he wants to be boxed and have his own style. And it's great to see the first few fights I saw of Conor Benn. He was very rash, going all out. There was I think one of his fourth fight, it could have been touch and go. It was very close, but he got the win. But it's nice, this sort of trajectory that he's on. Just keep clocking up those wins, getting those experiences, whether they're lesser boxers, just keep getting that confidence, getting those wins, keep learning your style, perfecting your style, and then go for the title fights. How do you see this one going, though? I think it'll be a good test for him tomorrow. I think he will win, but it'll be I think there will be a stiff test.
I mean, it's probably going to be one of the better tests that he's had. Yeah, I mean, I know he was stopped by Danny Garcia, wasn't he? So I think That comment by Laura Duffy, we will have to.
There should be a Friday with the two of you should just pronounce stuff. We'll have to get Grizz on that because he can't pronounce shit either.
Exactly. You two give it your best hash, and then I'll show you how it's done. You can say shit like Bruno Minge, and I'll say Bruno Mendes.
No, it's Nuno Mensch. The one who's gone to PSG is Nuno Mensch.
I told you. You can't say Minge in the show.
I didn't say you said it. Yeah, go on, carry on. Conor Benn, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think he's going to be coming to make a statement, and I almost hope that he doesn't. I hope that he just sort of plays his game and carries out the fight in his own way. It's going to be a test, and Granados is going to test him. But I think Conor Benn builds well into his fights. I think he's becoming a really rounded boxer. Like you say, they've built him up well. They've given him a good test each time, almost in a similar way to AJ, in the way that he sort of progressed through the ranks and fought progressively better boxers. But in a sort of shorter space of time, AJ, I think it just took too long, and people were getting frustrated at the lack of progression. But for me, I'm saying Conor Benn stoppage, Conor Benn to win by a stoppage, TKO in round 7.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, I'm going for TKO as well. Probably the later rounds, get some more ring time experience under his belt. I want to come on to another boxer, again with a famous name, Chris Eubank Jr. Now, Chris Eubank Jr., for me, Conor, I've always liked him. He's a very passive boxer, though. He takes his time. I think the fight against George Groves, I think the fight against Billy Joe Saunders, he should have put away, but he wasn't. He was very passive. He just had this aura about him where he wants to take his time and analyze, and a bit like his father did, who was one of my top 3 fighters. Chris Eubank, for those that don't know, was an absolute legend coming through. He's had some epic fights, absolutely epic fights during the 90s, and the Ben obviously tussle, the Steve Collins fights, the Malinga, the unfortunate Michael Watson fight as well. But I want to come on to Chris Eubank Jr. because the potential is there. He has been inactive, and he has got, Ghost puts it right, he has got an ego, but under Virgil Hunter, he does seem to have, nurtured that, and he wants to be active as possible. He wants 2-3 fights a year now instead of one fight every sort of 14-15 months. What do you make of Chris Eubank Jr.? And is there a way back for him? Because he beat James DeGale. Not that it's great, James DeGale was a good boxer, but he beat James DeGale. Is he there for a world title fight? He keeps flirting this idea of Triple G, Gennady Golovkin. Is there something there in the offing, or do you think he will just be one of those where he just sort of just like goes along?
No,
as soon as he gets that step, he gets beaten, and then
let's get it right. Triple G would just be no match for him. Like in the other way around, like he would have no match for Triple G. This guy would put him to sleep.
But his age though, Triple G's age now, is that what 36, 37 now?
Yeah, I mean, true, this is right, but there's no way that age can have that much of an effect on him, because this guy was supreme. I couldn't see it happening. I couldn't see Eubank coming close to him. In terms of his sort of potential at a world title shot, I don't really know. I don't see it personally. I see him as a similar sort of fighter to, I don't know, someone like Amir Khan, who was close, not quite there, never quite reached the sort of upper echelons that they claim to be close to. Ghost mentions it earlier that he has an ego. In a sport like boxing, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I think you need to have one to propel yourself to stardom, to propel yourself to the upper echelons.
But I think he feels he's become that star already. I think the way he comes across, the way he enters the ring, the way he sort of fights from the first sort of 4 or 5 rounds, he already thinks that he makes it. And I hope Virgil Hunter is one of the top coaches out here in California. Oh, Roy Jones Jr. as well. Sorry, yeah, it was with Virgil, but Roy Jones Jr. is actually been helping Eubank Jr. I hope he takes that out of his game. Roy Jones Jr. had an ego. He had the arrogance, but he deserved it. He had the right to, because he was absolutely brilliant. One of the most unorthodox boxers you'll meet, Roy Jones Jr. He could quickly switch stances. He had the jig. He had everything. For me, he was, again, a GOAT, Roy Jones Jr. But moving on, Mauricio Lara versus Josh Warrington. The fight is in Leeds, I believe, the second fight. It was in London first, I believe. Second fight, Mauricio Lara, a.k.a. Bronco. A superb fighter. I think out of his 25 fights or 24 fights, he's only fought outside of Mexicans twice. I think he fought against a Uruguayan fighter, and then he obviously met with Josh Warrington. How do you see this going? Because the first fight, Warrington was there
Oh.
trading. You don't trade with Latin fighters, do you? I mean, we're talking about Tijuana spirit here from Mexicans. You know, it just reminds me of the days of Chavez, Eric Morales, El Terrible, who's one of my favorites again, Marco Antonio Barrera. You don't want to. Surely he doesn't trade again because these Mexicans have got a chin on them, haven't they, Connor?
No, and I think he would have learned. I think he would have learned a lot from the last fight. Not that he would have remembered much from the fight because that knockout was brutal.
It was brutal, yeah.
I mean, he was getting peppered from about round 4. He got knocked down for the first time. I think it was in round 4. And
but he did. He connected quite well with Lara too. Warrington gave a good account of
round 1
himself.
and round 2. He came out too quick, too hot. He didn't have a chance after that. He burnt too much. And by round 4, Lara played the fight perfectly, didn't he? He was the underdog going into the fight, which I found absolutely baffling.
A huge,
absolutely massive.
It was one of the upset of the year, they said. But this refers back to Amir Khan against Brady Prescott, when everyone said, "Oh, Amir Khan's just gonna go through the division." Prescott, I think he was Colombian or Ecuadorian, or someone will correct me in a minute. He came over to England and literally just pounded Amir Khan, literally knocked him out. And Amir Khan never recovered from that. He got his big fights, he got his big paydays, but he never became the boxer that he should have. Some say that Khan was still limited. He was never going to hit those heights, but Prescott came out of nowhere. And I think this was something similar. You can prepare for fights. You can watch videos of opposition, but when you're fighting a Latin, you know, they have that tiger spirit that, you know, like, we'll lay it down on the line. We'll literally die on in the ring. And I think Warrington and his camp weren't prepared for that. How do you see the second fight going? Home crowd advantage, literally home crowd, because it is in Leeds. There's a few of my friends who are going. How do you see this one going?
I think Warrington will have learned a lot from it, as we said before, and I think that that home advantage will help. There's a crowd at this one, right? There's
a few of my friends who are going.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, the COVID restrictions in England have been reduced quite significantly now. So, yeah, good to see that there'll be a crowd back in there, and that will give him the motivation that he needs. But I can't see him besting Lara personally.
Do you think the first knockout obviously plays a part then, a major part? In like Warrington will know that he's got a shot in him to finish him. So maybe he might change his style, maybe be cautious coming out. The jab will be key.
Will. I mean, he'll have analysts in his team who are looking at this bout and saying, right, this is what we did wrong last time. You went in too hot, you went in too brazen. But I mean, there's only so much that analytics and preparation can do. You know, I think that Lara is definitely the favorite for me. It's weird because once again, the bookies are backing Josh, which, I mean, it seems like printing money. If you're gonna, I'm confident that Lara's gonna win. Because
we're not putting any. It's a disclaimer. We're not telling anyone to bow that. Yeah,
Connor,
look, come on, mate. Yeah, you already said some words that. Yeah. Please, guys. So don't take any advice from Connor, especially Connor. He's if you listen to his crypto tips, you won't have a bank account tomorrow morning. So literally,
goodness me, I'm not a betting man myself anymore because I just hemorrhage money from it. So
how do you see it going? I think he'll put a good fight up Warrington. I think Lara win it, but I think this goes to a decision this time round.
Really, you think he goes a distance?
I think Lara will take it, but it could be dubious judging as well. But I think Lara will win it on points. Lara can get reckless too. That first fight, he was getting reckless. He was trying these underhands and he was leaving himself so open with his left. And you think, wait a minute, Josh can get him here. But unfortunately, it didn't. The knockout was brutal. They had to put the oxygen masks and all that on him, I believe, wasn't it? And Lara, to be fair, he didn't celebrate. He just wanted to make sure that, Warrington was okay, which he was, thank God. But how do you see this fight going? I'm going for a point. Lara, you're going for a knockout again?
I'm going for a knockout. Yeah, Lara knockout. I will say a little bit later on. We'll go round 8 this time. I think it's a risky move for Warrington going back to this. A rematch so quickly at this point in his career is really going to be a significant one for him. But again, I just think there's not enough time in it. I think Lara, the gulf in class between them is too significant. And their fighting styles, Lara's just going to win. Personally, that's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Sullivan says it right. Fighters in the main don't recover from those KOs. It's all, isn't it? Even like Lennox Lewis. I remember when Lennox Lewis got knocked out by Connor. Now you're going to test me. Oliver McCall. he got knocked out by Oliver McCall, and it was a shocker of a result because no one expected Oliver McCall to win. And then Lewis obviously came up. He beat the Tours, he beat the Galottas, he beat Bruno, got the title back, beat Holyfield. The first fight, which was dubious, it was given a draw when he should have beaten him. But that's Las Vegas and Don King for you. He beat Holyfield in the second. And then he fought Tyson. And then it came to Hasim Rahman. They had this fight in Africa, Connor. I don't even think you were born. 2001, how old were you?
Goodness me. Is it every time? One day.
No, I
forget.
I forget.
Other side of the
even though you're
millennium,
family.
fella.
Yeah.
Come on.
So he fought Hasim Rahman, and Hasim Rahman caught him again with a knockout. And it was a shocker again. And then he's had to obviously come back. He's won the title in the rematch, and then he goes off again. And he obviously beats Klitschko because Klitschko couldn't carry on with his cut in the eye. But yeah, once you have that knockout, once you get knocked out, that's always in the back of your head, isn't it? It's always, you're always prone, and you always think about in the back of the head that he can catch me again, especially like in rematches and whatnot. But I think it's going to be a good fight. There's loads of sports. I know everyone's a little bit bored because no club football, but there is a lot of sports tomorrow. Obviously the UFC card, the boxing, the cricket, India, England. It's looking
India
good again,
batting.
isn't it?
Both teams up for their second innings now. It was quite a tight game. I think England only had a run of about 100-ish, 130, something like that. Both teams bowled out for just over 150 for India and just over 250 for England. So India started their second innings, not lost a wicket yet. Day 3 tomorrow, so looking like a good day. Good series of cricket to come.
Brilliant. It's not been a bad show today. We've gone an hour and 20, not been a bad show. Kevin O'Sullivan, test is shaping up nicely. It is. I'm going to catch some of that. You know what it is? Test cricket starts at what? 10:30, 10 in the morning, 10, 11.
11 a.m. UK
so
time.
That's
so
what?
That, like
3 a.m. for me. I'm long gone by then. You know, once I've had a few. Today's Friday as well, so I'll be looking at my drinks collection, seeing what's on offer. But it's been a good show. Jessica was good. You know, she had a little bit of retribution. She got a bit of love in today from the Liverpool fans, from all fans.
And a bit of vitriol as well, a bit of anger from people.
Here's a question for you. Last 5 minutes. WJ Davis 1. What are your top 4 sports, guys? And we can go to Sporting Idol as well from there. Go on, name your top 4 sports. And don't say snooker, because I know your dad was a big fan of Jimmy White and Nigel Bond and all that, but please don't.
So we'll say darts, bowls, curling, and
come on,
ping
he's
pong.
asked a serious question there. So football's obviously number 1. Football's one.
We'll give an idol. We'll give an idol from each one. All right, we'll give an idol from each one. So I'll say football number 1, of course. My footballing idol would be Ronaldinho. It's the time I grew up, and he just had so much flair, so much skill. He was just so effortless on the pitch. Goodness me. I'll go UFC MMA number 2. I'll say Khabib for an idol, just because of the way he carried himself, so much dignity, but then just so proficient on the field, in the ring. In the octagon.
He's asked for top 4 sports, not sports and an idol. But you go on 3rd and 4th.
We agreed. We agreed. How you going back on your deal?
Gav's on my case. Gav's in my private comment saying, "Hurry up." He's got to edit all this as well.
Gav will go to 1:30. All right,
go on.
To 1:30.
So
third would be cricket, and I will say my cricketing idol. It's a weird one, but I'm going Ricky Ponting. Weird one.
Oh, brilliant cricketer! Brilliant.
I used to watch him, and he never ever got out. Got out.
I tell you what happened with Ricky Ponting. He's a brilliant batsman. Number 3, I think he used to come for the Australians. Kev Laura can put me straight. He got a lot of flack as captain towards the end of his tenure, and it was really unfair because he was one of the best batsmen in cricket. He deserved a little bit more respect from his own people as well. The Australians really gave him a hard time because they'd lost the Ashes, I think, in 2000, and that series with Freddie and Harmison and Hoggard and whatnot. Yeah, and he got a lot of flack for that, and it was a little bit unfair. But cricket is 3rd. What's 4th?
4th, I'm going rugby. I don't really have a 4th, to be honest, but I'll say my idol's Mike Brown, just because he's a shithouse.
Who is he?
He was a fullback for England. Just an absolute shithouse. Just used to start fights all the time. Good player as well. I mean, come on, you can't deny that. But yeah.
So obviously, I'll do something different. Then number 1, football. My idol. There's so many, isn't there? It's a hard one.
Oh, I know. I was going to be Yari Littmanen.
No, Yari was brilliant. Yari Littmanen. It was Michael Laudrup. I'll say Michael Laudrup because I always sort of played my game for school as a 10, but I was a lazy 10, very lazy 10.
I've seen.
But my
I've
three,
seen.
yeah, my through
As
balls,
lazy as they come.
but I was technically good though. I was really technically good. So I'll say Michael Laudrup as my first footballing idol. Number 2, you went for UFC. My first UFC star has got to be Tito Ortiz, the Huntington Beach boy. Just literally just loved him. Changed the face of the sport. Him and Chuck Liddell, Ken Shamrock, Dan Seven. So Tito Ortiz. Number 3, who was number 3?
What, in my sports?
Yeah, who was your 3?
Mine was cricket. And
Cricket.
Ricky Ponting,
So cricket for me, number 3, Graham Thorpe.
it's your own sports. Don't copy mine, fella.
No,
You've
no,
been
I'm going to
around
go
long
for cricket.
enough.
No, cricket as well. Cricket was a big sport. I was a good cricket player. I was a really good cricket all rounder. I was a off spinner, right, and I was a right-handed batsman, all rounder. But Graham Thorpe was one of my favorite batsmen, left-handed, brilliant. Him, Graham Hicks, Alex Stewart was one of my favorites because he was a batsman and a wicketkeeper. One of the only Englishmen to hit a double century in both innings in a Test match against West Indies back in 93, 94. See, there's the knowledge there. So Alex Stewart, Graham Thorpe, and then number 4, rugby. I tell you what, rugby, I didn't mind rugby league. I used to be not a big fan of Wigan, but Wigan Warriors. But back in the day of Martin O'Fire, Jason Robinson, Radlinski, there were 2 brothers as well, I think, used to play for Wigan. 2 brothers. Where is she? Laura. 2 brothers who played for Wigan together. They used to have a brilliant team. They used to win the Tetleys rugby championship they used to beat St Helens all the time. But Martin O'Fire, go and look at him on YouTube. Martin O'Fire was a legend of the rugby league scene. I think he went into Union as well. But
yeah, he did. That's how I know him, from a big pacey winger.
Yep. Tennis, yeah. Oh, I was a massive tennis fan. For me, Andre Agassi, baseline. I love baseline players. Rafael Nadal for me is the GOAT. Plays with permanent damage to his knees. For me, Rafael Nadal. You, Connor, your favorite?
Oh, Sam Tompkins might be the one, but that might be a bit too. No, they're recent. I think they're just talking about twins.
No, not for Wigan. This is back in the 90s, Kieran. Back in the 90s. Kieran wasn't even born in the 90s.
Sam Tompkins is a player though, and he's one of the best knocking about where he was.
Martin O'Fire. But back to tennis. Your favorite tennis player? Have you got one?
It would probably be Rafa if I'm just being basic and thinking about their styles and their abilities. But my favorite, sort of a more niche one, would be Juan Martín del Potro, big Argentine.
The Argentinian. He beat Federer in the US, didn't he, in the Open?
Yeah,
in the final. Yeah. He's a good player. Well,
big player, huge serve, huge power, huge presence on the court. That's
they had a few, didn't they? They had David Nalbandian as well, who was Argentinian.
Nalbandian, yeah, I remember Nalbandian.
But 90s,
yeah, he was never the same Nalbandian after he mashed up a referee's or an umpire's chair, or he smacked the ball at someone. Someone remind me in the comments, he did something absolutely outrageous.
The 90s era and the early 21st century era of tennis was the best because you had the likes of Michael Chang, Thomas Muster, the clay specialist. So before Nadal was brilliant, Thomas Muster, he only won 1 French Open, but he was a brilliant off circuit on the clays. Brilliant. You had Todd Martin, Effenberg, you had Edberg, sorry. You had Jim Courier, Agassi, Sampras. Sampras was brilliant. Serve and volley. Some people didn't prefer that style, but Greg Rosetsky, US Open against Bjorkman, I believe he got into the final. Henman, less said about the Henman. He was rubbish, absolutely rubbish. You had some Indians in there. Leander Piers, he wasn't a bad player either, but you had personalities back then as well. I know people will talk about even before then you had McEnroe, Borg, but 90s and early 21st century was a brilliant era for tennis. So it was brilliant. But Formula One and Kevin O'Sullivan. So Formula One is a big. I was a massive fan because I did karting back in the day as a school kid. As a kid, my dad bought me my own car and we would go out karting. But Michael Schumacher documentary is the one to look out for. We all know what's happened, and obviously keep fighting Michael is the slogan that they use in Formula One. Michael Schumacher we'll talk about Michael Schumacher next week, Connor, because he's one of my sporting heroes, sporting idols, and we'll go in depth next week as well. And you want to pick Ronaldinho, don't you? Next week.
Yeah. I mean, we were going to talk. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've covered them in brief. But yeah, if we talk about sporting idols next week, I'll pick Ronaldinho or Joe Cole. Or
before we end, Andy Roddick, brilliant shout, Dean. He was great. He just couldn't beat Federer. Wimbledon, that's had a great clash in 2008, I think. It went to 5 sets, but Roddick should have won that final. Here we go. See, I told you I wasn't lying. Was it the Paul brothers? It was Henry Paul and Robbie Hall. I think one of them went to play for Bradford in the end, but for Wigan. See, I told you I know my stuff. It was the Henry and Robbie Paul brothers. But yeah, I want to talk about this because Shuey, for me, he was an inspiration. His winning mentality, whether it was dirty at times, he persevered, and he had his battles with Damon Hill and Coulthard as well, Mika Hakkinen, Alonso. Any era, Shuey was brilliant. The only thing about F1 which we were robbed of was a true Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher rivalry, because that would have been one hell of a rivalry. We had Senna and Prost, but Senna and Michael Schumacher, I really feel the sport was robbed of that one sort of rivalry that could have, it was sort of coming together as well. Unfortunately, what happened in Imola, obviously, is always in our memory. But yeah, we'll touch upon that. Some great comments, guys. Thank you, Kevin O'Sullivan. Yeah, guys, and no one's seen it. Senna is the best sports doc. I got to agree with that. I tell you what, Kevin, another sports documentary I always go on about it, the Boston Red Sox when they beat the New York Yankees, the 30-for-30 series. It's a 4-part special episode. Brilliant. The Michael Jordan one, Save the Last Dance. Again, if you want to learn about a winning mentality, just even outside of sports, career-wise, go and watch Save the Last Dance. Michael Jordan's mentality is elite, absolute elite. But guys, thank you very much. Kieran Thorne, Shuey did it at Benetton. That's why he'll always be the best. He did. Flavio Briatore as well.
Right, I'm banning you from picking out on comments. All right, you said the Gav's on your tail. We've got to wrap it up. It's been an hour and a half. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a good show. It's been a
brilliant show.
We're still growing. We're still young. At one point, we had 100 viewing. It's going to take time, but I appreciate everyone that comes on a Friday. Look, Friday nights usually people want to be in with their families, have a drink and whatnot, and party. I know you're going away for Greece for the next 3 weeks, so I will be on the lookout. I know Conroy Hunter will be joining me. He's a regular on the Daytrippers as well. He's got his own channel, so he'll be here. And then I'll probably get a third person in next Friday, probably Chris Brack. I will getting him in because it's back to Premiership football. But Connor, any last words before you're off? And where are you off to? You're off to Greece?
Off to Greece, a few different islands. Yeah, going island hopping. Off into Athens for a couple of days, then to Ios, Mykonos, Santorini, and Kouvanusi. So quite a few different places. 3 weeks, just a spontaneous thing. But final words from me.
Kouvanusi seems somewhere in Russia or something, isn't it?
Kouvanusi, apparently it's all nudist beaches. So
I bet you love that, don't you? Yeah. Okay.
Be a good one for the ladies out there. Anyway,
but for the week, I think tomorrow is tomorrow's a day off for the Trippers. Sunday they're back. I don't know what Gav's got planned, whether it's another quiz or whatnot. I'm not sure, and I don't want to speculate. Sienna Steps, guys. Let's get the little girl to St. Louis before November. November is the deadline, so let's raise the money. I don't know what the exact target is at the moment, but Gav will give us an update on Sunday. But that's it from me. Good night. God bless. Stay safe. And Gav shall see you on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.